Welcome to the JAMODI Podcast. We are all surrounded by amazing coaches and leaders. So let's get an inside look at not just what they do, but how they do what they do. After all, becoming the best versions of ourselves is JAMODI, just a matter of doing it. Coaches, we are all searching for ways to better evaluate players in order to give meaningful feedback. Over 15 years ago, I put together a test called the JAMODI Skill Rating. The JSR takes players through a series of tests involving basketball skill or athleticism, giving them one rating at the end. Their JSR rating will give you clarity on what needs to be discussed with players and parents on areas they need to focus on improving. I test our players at least 4 times each year. They're able to compete against each other, past players' scores, and most importantly, their past performances. If you'd like to start testing your athletes, email me at jamodipodcast@gmail.com for more information.
I want to shift gears a little bit to social media, on how you're going to use it with your program, but then also I'll take it another direction of players and recruiting. But first, I think I did follow you at Alito and followed your basketball program there. Love the way that you use social media, whether that was you or not. How are you going to implement that? How does it help you at Florida College?
Well, with Alito, the first thing was it allowed us to tell a story. And so, the story at Alito has always been football is amazing. None of the other sports matter. So we were able to tell our story and look, we have guys in the gym all the time. We're having success on the court. The guys are doing great work off the court with our servant leadership activities. Our team GPA is amazing. We use the JAMODI skills rating from you with our freshmen. So those guys got some love.
How'd you like
So
that?
we were
I'm
able
just
to tell
curious,
it.
and this isn't to plug it.
Yeah.
This isn't to get more people to do it, but what were your thoughts?
So it was really good because we did get to get a baseline for skills from our guys. And for our freshmen, it gave us on days where we would have just played open gym or maybe watched film, or it wouldn't have been as structured. It allowed us to give some structure to the work. And so, it took 3 days to do the rating, and we did it. We ended up doing it just twice. We did it once before the season. We did it once during the season. And then, after the season, I was kind of after spring break, that's when I was kind of transitioning to the college stuff. And so we didn't get to do it a third time, but ideally I would have liked to have done it 4 times. Once when school starts, once right before the season, once after football was over for the freshmen, and then once again right after the season. So that would have kind of been ideal, but we ended up doing it twice. But I liked it because it gave us some structure. It gave the guys some guidance and some skill work that maybe what I saw guys doing wall passes in warm-ups. You know what I mean?
Coach, 19 years ago in the portable at Naaman Forest doing ESL reading is when I was writing down on the chalkboard out there. I liked the Nike Spark idea. I was like, what a cool idea that players get to go to one place and do all these tests, and then they get a number, and they get to compare themselves to all these other athletes through that number. And I was like, I just don't really know about that for basketball. And I said, well, the NBA combine, but that's all athleticism. But our skill or our sport, skill is king. And so I started writing down what are the skills, what are the drills, and over years it's changed and the standards have tightened to where I feel like it's in a good place. But I thought about at the very least, if this gives them something to do and more of a focus when they have the ball in their hand. Hey guys, the test is coming. You know what's on it. Spend a little time. Then it's been a success. So yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Well, and I think we can modify it even at the college level because we have a development team that we may not have as many team practices with, but we can get them in their small groups and do
That's
some of
cool.
these and give them a rating. And so, I think we just want our guys to always feel like they're getting better, right? Like if I feel like I'm improving as a player, then that's going to keep me coming back. And so the real hoopers are always wanting to grow and get better, whether it's improving your breathing or improving your jump shot. Like you always want to feel like you're growing and getting better. And so maybe that's how we retain some players at our level that would transfer, but they want to stay because they know they're getting better. So
Coach, I would love to hear how that goes if you do train, if you do test those guys. That's really cool, and I didn't expect it to go this direction, just so you know, and anybody listening, I didn't ask him to bring up the JAMODI skill rating so that more people are interested, because it has been one of the best things that I think that we've done in our programs over the years, and I try to do it 5 times a year, and the 5 times are really important, though. The first is the first day of school or the first 3 days of school, and before culture, before anything, we're gonna test you. And it's a great to me, the players I haven't seen a player dread the test, whether they know what it is or not. The fact that we're gonna put them through a test, they're gonna get to compare themselves to everybody else and then themselves over time, and it's a great way to keep the players' names of the past still in here. So, at Faith, Tyler Lumblade was up at the top, so every player is trying to beat Tyler Lumblade, you know? And so that's one thing, but when you test them at the beginning of the year, they're most likely at a really low place and, skill wise, unless they've been playing high level select or select ball, they've been trained and they've been doing this. But even if they took the last 2 or 3 weeks off, you're going to get low numbers across the board. And I'm not trying to trick them. That's just how it is. Like, they know ahead of time the test is coming. Let's see how prepared they are. What did you do during the summer, especially if you have spring data to take against it? But then you go through your 2 months of skill work and development training, and you test them again before the season, almost every score goes up. So we talked about credibility a few times through there. How do I know that what I'm doing is helping my players? Test them. There's a really good chance, whether your stuff is good or not, that because they've been doing something with a ball in their hand 5 or 6 days a week, and you could even just incorporate those drills into your skill work. Like, one of our ball handling days is one ball Wednesday. And so seesaw is in that. They're going to do seesaw, and 2 ball Tuesday, I could easily just move that wall pass into there. But then you get that. And then there's a really fun fit, during the winter Christmas break. I take our varsity only through another test. So if you got football guys, they get to do it, but that's their best scores that they ever get because they're at their peak in skill and athleticism at that point. And then for the returning guys, it's let's get a baseline before our spring starts, and then let's get a test right before the summer. The spring test is huge, though, because with parent meetings and with player meetings, I like to do, and I can't remember where I got this from, but it's a 25, 50, 100 talk. And so you take three things that this is our 25% goal. It's the smallest change that we want to see. And maybe I'll see it in you, the player, they'll feel it, and maybe their family. The people only closest to you are going to see change in this goal. There's a 50% goal where more people in our program will see the change. It's more obvious to people. And then there's the 100% where they don't even have to know you. They can see that you've been working out. They can see you've been putting time with your shot. They can see that your handle is better. You can attack to your weak hand better. So I take them through that, but how I get the 25, 50, and 100 is really all around the JAMODI skill rating, because the ball handling piece, the shooting piece, the athleticism piece, there's your 3. Which one is he really strong in? If he's your best shooter in your program, okay, that's the 25% goal. Now, I really want you to work on your load up into your pull up. Like, let's just add that part in. It's a small skill, spend time, and we try to see it over, but when the parents come in and I have a sheet that I hand them with a clear cut 25, 50, 100 based on data, the things that I've tested them on. Coach, this isn't guessing, right? Like, and think of it, if I was a parent sitting with my son, I would think this is a place where there's a plan. That where, like you said, every kid wants to feel like they're getting better. You had a few promises that you give, and I love the fact that you said, "I'll promise that I'll care for you, and that if you graduate from here, we're in our program for life." I think we can promise that. We can't promise playing time, but what another good thing to promise, though, is development. I will develop. You will get developed here with your skill, not just in your character, which is great, and that's super important, but sorry for rambling right there, but thank you for bringing that up, man.
No, it's a good system. And like for me, I was an English teacher for 16 years. I'm relational by nature. I'm not a big numbers guy. And so, analytics and statistics and data, that's not my jam. Like that's not how I'm wired. So I have to be intentional with that and use numbers to validate decisions that I make because like I was telling a kid today that was on a visit. I'm like, I like everybody that I'm recruiting. Otherwise, I wouldn't recruit you. So like, I like you as a person. So I need numbers to back up the decisions that I make because I like you as a person. I care about you as a person. And so I have to have numbers to say, hey, we're making this decision because of this. And so, anytime that you can have numbers for guys and players, whether it's playing time decisions, whether it's analytics, whether it's a JAMODI skills rating, like those numbers mean something to them. And it allows you to open some doors to help players improve.
Oh, that was cool. I don't think I've ever got to talk about it that much on here, or it maybe if only if coaches reach out. And so thank you for that time. That all came from social media and telling your story.
Yeah.
And so let's get back there.
Okay. So with our social media, I've had great assistant coaches that liked to do it. And so Kenny Bourne was really big in building a social media presence for us at Boswell. I mean, he does social media for Marcus Smart, and so it was natural for him to just help Boswell basketball kind of grow on Twitter, Instagram, all the platforms. So at the college level, we have a sports information director, and she's kind of in charge of a lot of those areas. We do have a say in that, and so we want to, and I got this from Eric Littleton, who you've had on the podcast, and Eric was really good, and he told me something about social media. He's like, Brian, control the narrative. Let's control the narrative. So whether we like it or not, perception is reality when it comes to social media. And so, I tell our players that social media is fake because you can see a guy's highlight and not have a clue. He may not have a clue how to play basketball, but you look at his highlight and it looks like he does. And so, but we can control the narrative of our program, the story we want to tell. And so, we want to highlight guys' achievements in the classroom. We want to highlight their achievements with our servant leadership activities and community service. And then we want to highlight our team success in the season. And then we want to highlight our individual player success outside the season. And so, we were really big on promoting individual players during AAU. And so our social media platform became just a highlight reel for all of our players and their individual AAU programs and summer successes. And then in the season, we still highlighted players individually, but it was about our team success. And so I always told our coaches with our social media, we wanted it to feel like we won 3 games when we only won 1. And so, make it feel like a bigger deal than it is. And so we were retweeting, and then, luckily we were in a kind of a bigger market. And so maybe the newspaper guy, got involved, or someone from the Fort Worth Star Telegram or DFW News, they tagged on to something, and now it's even bigger deal. And so, we went 1-1 this week, but it seemed like we won 5 games because of the, kind of the perception is reality in regards to our social media platform. And so I thought our coaches did a really good job of that. I think they enjoyed it because it gave them some freedom to kind of express themselves and ourselves in a way that promoted the school, promoted the program. And so that's kind of how we used it. And, at the college level, we'll have someone that is kind of in charge of that, but it's the same idea. Every player has a story, and then we want to be able for them to tell that story in a setting and in a platform and kind of in a bubble that we ultimately control.
Thank you for sharing that. I think hiring assistant coaches that have a little bit of that experience or they're comfortable with it, because even though I do a lot of the posting, I did it all for faith. Now I'm helping with Midway with that now, trying to grow that presence. I'm not the most. I don't feel comfortable doing that, and I maybe a coach needed to hear that just because you're not comfortable doing something, like I ask my wife all the time, "Hey, how does this sound? Like,
Yes.
does this look cool? Like, is this, I don't know what to say." And so another thing that's helpful too is follow college programs. And I literally, coach, I screenshot what they put, what they write, or what emoji they use for like they'll put 4 pictures out and like here's one in the lab, right? In the lab
Yeah.
with that little green thing and then 4 pictures of them training. Boom. Like there's a post. And then you just have to have people around that enjoy it. You know, you can recruit students or managers to take pictures and to bring them to have them be a part of it. But tell your story, no doubt, and then have fun with it. And then follow other high school programs. Golly, Allen High School, those guys there, they're professionals, man. Like that
Yeah,
is
for sure.
incredible. And there's a lot that you can just borrow out there to where I'm not good at creating content. That's why I have you on here. If it was just me sitting here by myself talking, it would just be awful. So I can talk to you and learn from you, but borrow from others. And I think that's what we need to do with social media.
Yeah, last year at Aledo, Travis Jones was an assistant coach for us, and I would have an idea, and I would kind of verbalize it to him, and he's like, "Oh, I got something," like, and then he did it all on Instagram because I don't even know how to use Instagram. That shows you how old I am. So he would take it, and then what ended up happening, kind of as a byproduct, was he would be like, "Coach, we're up 700% on our followers on our Instagram," and then we were able to take that and get some advertising for the basketball program because we were able to show a company, a bank in town, like, hey, this is how many followers you're going to get whenever we post the, state bank player of the
Wow.
game.
Yeah.
And so there was some, again, some data behind, the ability to use social media and get, not just the in-person eyes that are at the game, but now you have the virtual eyes that are on our social media. And that allowed us to, raise money for our program. And so Coach Jones gets a ton of credit for that because he was tracking it and using it in a way that was beneficial to our school and to our program. And then honestly to our community because of the fundraising aspect of it.
I never thought about that. Going out to businesses or sponsors. And one thing I'm excited about being back in Waco, but in this community where it's Woodway and Hewitt, that's kind of where Midway High School is.
Yeah.
But it has a very much a small town feel out here, even though Waco is a bigger city. All the little parts of it, like I think there can be connections that are made, but I didn't think about that of bringing our social media into it. And just off the top of my head, let's just say, Point West Bank, and I'm using that name because I actually drive by that every day now, and it may be our bank that we use, but Point West Bank player of the game or video or play of the game, probably not player of the game, but play of the game, or Point West hustle play of the, like you could bring businesses in and tag them and have some. It goes back to fun, like have fun with social media. I never want it to feel like it's a bother or I dread it, even though I'm uncomfortable with what I create or post. I think have fun with it. And here's the big thing: besides just telling your story, controlling the narrative, I think it lets people into your program more because most of them only come on Tuesdays and Fridays and watch the 32 minutes. But man, let them see what you're doing in athletic period. Let them see what Wisdom Wednesdays look like when a player has to read a quote with conviction and enthusiasm, and we work on followership just like we work on leadership. And so I just think it's a huge piece that most people are. I feel like a lot of coaches are getting on board, but I think we can all, if we're on this, you and I are on this podcast because we want to keep learning and growing. I think there's more that we can do.
Yes, sir. Absolutely.
Thank you for checking out today's episode. Please take a moment to subscribe to this podcast, share it with your fellow coaches, and find us on social media for what's coming up next on the JAMODI Podcast. It's just a matter of doing it.